Welcome back, Flickers. Your host, Andrew, here checking in from Rileywood.
Braden here. What's up?
What's going on?
How's
Man,
life?
Life's good. Sunday afternoon at this point. Shooting for a morning recording, but now it's well into the afternoon.
It's okay. It happens. Production schedules get delayed.
They do.
It's normal.
It is normal. We're out here. We're out here battling the elements to bring this podcast to you guys. Man, we're back. Man, we had a guest host planned for the slot, but unfortunately that fell through. But we are going to bring a guest host. It is coming.
It's coming. It might come next week.
It might come next week.
Who knows?
So we had to hurriedly do some research because we were banking on somebody to have some extra input, you know.
I thought this guy was gonna carry it all on his shoulders. I mean,
I know. I thought we were gonna be able to put it in autopilot for a change, cash in on someone else's hard work. But alas, we're back here, freaking podcast on our shoulders. Marching it down the field, going for the end zone.
we're doing it.
We're doing it. We're on the 5-yard line, and the whistle's blowing right now.
Dude, so can I just say, all these billionaires going into space? What's that about? What do they know that we don't know? Why are they trying to leave Earth all of a sudden?
I mean, who knows, man? You know, if it's I hope it's just a giant solar flare, and you know, maybe just like one half of the Earth gets it real bad, and then you know maybe there's a chance for the other half of the planet, and maybe that's what they're fleeing. That's my gut intuition. You know,
Makes sense. I mean, it is about time for God to punish us.
We haven't had a Carrington like event in a while.
I could go for one.
I really don't want it to happen, man. It'd be bad. Maybe Yellowstone. You know, that's one that I think about a lot.
I'm just saying, it's obvious that they're all preparing.
Or they just have a ton of money and there's like nothing else for them to do in life, you know. And I think that's an equally plausible, you know, reason for it. You know, you got just hordes and hordes of cash, and like everything you could want, you have. You've got the mega yachts, you've got the private islands, you've got probably literal castles, you've got every sports car, helicopter, private jet, everything you could ever want. You know, an empire that's servicing the masses and raking it in. I mean, what the fuck else are you
Go to
gonna
space.
do? Yeah, go to space. What else are you gonna do? I mean, it's not that like conspiratorial necessarily in my mind, but it could be. And you know,
I don't know.
hey, everything's looking up Andrew recently, and I would just like life to keep going nice-ish, you know. That wouldn't be so bad.
There you go. I mean, I do think it's possible they're moving their Epstein Island to outer space so they can avoid international law.
Yeah, nobody can fly a drone up there.
Anyway, what movie are we doing today?
We're doing The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
Oh yeah. This movie's awesome.
The DQ, the Dairy Queen. Yeah, this movie is super awesome, and it's a newer one. Part of the reason we selected this film is because it's available on Hulu. So, you know, we wanted to do one that was real accessible for everybody. Or not, I mean, you know, if you don't have a Hulu account, I'm sorry. You should get a Hulu account. Or don't. I mean, I don't know. Don't listen to me. Don't let me shill for Hulu. But, you know, it's out there. It's easy enough to get to. You don't have to rent it on Amazon or anything if you have Hulu. So, but
There you go.
It's a newer film. It's a Terry Gilliam film, which is justification enough. You know, I was thinking about it. It's almost like kind of insane that Terry Gilliam hasn't slipped into the lineup yet. Truly a testament to just how many far out movies there are out there.
Oh, there's tons.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
But he's got a long career of awesome content, though.
He does. They're all very kind of like there's an element of like fantasy in pretty much everything he's ever done, or like at least touching heavily on imagination. Very on the nose with like the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus. Heath Ledger's last film, which I'd like to talk about a little bit later on. Obviously,
Sure.
I mean, obviously Monty Python. That's like GOAT status. He is the only non-British born member of the Monty Python troupe. Worth noting.
Yep, he's American.
He's renounced his American citizenship.
Good point.
So fully British at this point.
What are some of his other movies he did?
He did 12 Monkeys, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas,
Brazil, Time Bandits,
yeah. There's another one, the first one in the Americana trilogy. So the Americana trilogy, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas is the third one. I can tell you in just 2 seconds. But anyway.
Fisher King, 12 Monkeys.
12 Monkeys. 12 Monkeys is the second one, and Fisher King is the first, which I have not seen. I've not seen the Fisher King.
Oh, the Fisher King's awesome. It has Jeff Bridges and Robin Williams, I believe.
Ooh, excellent. Put it on the list. But 12 Monkeys was like one of the first kind of films I saw that like really got all timey-wimey on me, and I love 12 Monkeys. I mean, just absolutely historic performances from Bruce Willis, Brad Pitt.
That movie's awesome. That was one of the first far out flicks I can remember watching. I mean, I think I was at the right age,
Yeah, and I feel like I saw Brazil pretty early on in my movie watching career. I think it was like off the cusp of watching Children of Men, which had just come out. So that would have been like high school for me, I guess. But I watched Brazil right after because somebody referenced it on a forum online and suggested checking that out if you enjoyed that film.
Terry Gilliam has a very distinct visual style and I would say pacing to his movies.
Absolutely. And he was the lead animator for the Monty Python troupe. And has like a very unique style. Anybody who's ever seen any Monty Python film is familiar with it. I guess it's characterized by like kind of like soft gradients and cutouts, like moving around, and like weird bulbous things.
It's great.
It is great. I freaking love it. He he made a movie actually about basically his like animation style. What was it called? Animation of Mortality or something like that.
Huh.
Yeah, Animations of Mortality in 1978. I had the date wrong. Sorry,
nice.
But it's like a tongue-in-cheek autobiographical how-to guide for his animation techniques.
Oh, nice. Very interesting.
Yeah. So that was his initial role with the Monty Python troupe, and then started to be featured in acting roles more and more as time went on.
I mean, Monty Python has to be like one of the greatest sketch shows of all time. I mean, it holds up.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say like that was extremely imaginative filmmaking for the era that it was coming out. So, anywho, I just think he's a super imaginative guy, and I really appreciate his works. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, I feel like anybody who has ever been 18 years old and like maybe was dabbling with light recreational drugs probably has watched this movie, or at least like knows of it and its source content. The book of the same title by one of our absolute favorites, Hunter S. Thompson.
Yeah, that movie's like a masterpiece, basically.
Yeah, what's interesting is you mentioned Robin Williams was in The Fisher King, right? Said
Yes.
that? Yeah. So Robin Williams was considered for a role in The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, as was Johnny Depp at one point across like the many attempts to make this movie. It should be said up front, it took 25 years for this film to
29, I believe. It
29.
took forever.
Yeah. And we'll get into that. That's like a big part of what we're going to talk about. Is
It's
the production.
commonly cited as like one of the best examples of just Hollywood development hell. Like this movie did not want to get made, and like basically it became Terry Gilliam's almost Moby Dick, and he was it was his white whale. He was chasing it all those years.
Yeah. So I don't know, Braden. You want to talk about like some of the production hurdles?
So I believe he said he originally read Don Quixote, which I guess we could talk about Don Quixote for a second because
Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
I actually read that book as a child for one of those like scholastic points programs and probably won a pizza or like some stupid other thing.
Yeah.
But even as a child, I was like, this is awesome. And I've
I mean,
always...
whatever. It was free shit for reading. Like, don't gripe.
Exactly. And I was proud when I finished that too. But, man, I've always felt some connection to the story and had some fascination with Don Quixote, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. It's I guess so. When it was released, it was kind of like almost like a satirical work, kind of like poking fun at like the like romanticized knight and dragons stories of like the time preceding before it. So this would have been
1605 and
Yeah,
1615. So, I mean, this is a super old piece of literature that
Yes.
has survived because it's just so good.
Yeah, so coming out of like the Middle Ages, you know, like stories about knights and dragons were fairly prevalent. You know, see King Arthur or any other, and I mean a lot of them are very old stories, but they were some of like the works that were being, you know, written, I guess, at that point, and it was written, I guess, kind of like as a satire of that, or that's per my understanding and like loose rememberings from whenever grade I read this in. I don't remember.
Sure, sounds about right.
Yeah, yeah.
It's supposed to be funny.
It is. Tongue in cheek, I guess.
And I mean, I guess you could describe Don Quixote. He's an old man who basically dresses up like a knight and goes on these fantastical adventures. But he's basically in modern society of that time, so he just looks like a crazy person, basically. But there's something endearing about him. Like, he has this childlike love for life that I think most people admire in some way or the other.
Yeah, and I think like a book that I like a lot, of Confederacy of Dunces.
Oh, that's a good one.
It is, you know, like draws a whole lot of inspiration off of the character Don Quixote, as well as many, many other characters. I mean, it's just such an influential work of literature. Almost everybody, at least, like, kind of can put Don Quixote and a windmill together, you know?
Sure. He's kind of almost this Peter Pan kind of character where, like, he's an old man who is running around like he's a 7-year-old using his imagination, you know?
Yeah, I think that, like, kind of a portrayal or characterization that's become more popular over time and, like, perhaps wasn't as true to the original work is that he's just, like, this kind of, like, crazy old man. I think the original work, he was, like, less crazy and just more, like, you know, over the top about the idea of, like, reviving chivalry or whatever.
Sure. And I mean, he brings a certain romance to every situation, you know? Mundane, ordinary circumstances. When you look at him through Don Quixote's eyes, it's you know, he creates his own mythology, which I think we can all do that in our own lives, you know? You have to a certain degree, otherwise it is just mundane and boring.
Yeah, I guess I'll agree to that.
And I mean, that's essentially in the film The Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Just a broad overview. It's actually kind of autobiographical in a way because it's about a filmmaker trying to make an adaptation of Don Quixote. And throughout the course of the film, spoiler alert, he kind of gets swayed over to this fanciful idea of reality that Don Quixote has, and at the end of the movie, he essentially like finds the merit in that and slips into it in a way.
Yeah, I mean, minor correction, he's making an advertisement.
Right, it's a commercial.
But he had, and we'll talk about it, more as we get into it. But he had, I guess, come to fame for making a film adaptation of Don Quixote, like when he was in film school or whatever.
Right,
it's a major plot point.
Yep. So, I mean, I think even in the film, the moral of the story is almost, yes, we should romanticize our lives to a certain degree. I mean, being grounded in reality has its benefits, but it makes life more boring for sure.
Absolutely. There's some other like elements that I think the film touches on that I think are autobiographical. And like one of them is kind of, a reflection of, I guess, like the wake of your creative path. And I think like a lot of like the artistic geniuses of the world, or at least the highly successful artists, because I'm sure there's lots of artistic geniuses that, we don't even know about. But the ones who are successful, I feel like a lot of times, they've got these almost megalomaniac personalities, larger than life, highly enchanting and charming, but they also can be, very reckless or hapless with like the people they catch in their whirlwind.
Interesting. I kind of get that.
That's I feel like that's like at least like the musings on that.
Just even the idea that Terry Gilliam thought he was the perfect person to make the best adaptation of Don Quixote ever kind of implies a bit of megalomania, or at least larger than life imagination.
And I'm not trying to call Terry Gilliam a megalomaniac at all, but I'm just saying like people who have the drive and the artistic gift, I feel like sometimes they get people who just they follow them almost naturally.
People like Terry Gilliam, they dream big, and I mean, yes, I think that is why a lot of artists are attracted to the idea of Don Quixote.
The movie took again forever to make, and like over a course of a career, essentially, this film finally came to being.
An absurd amount of money was just wasted entirely.
Yeah, but I think like, in the final forming of this film, it's made by a man who at the end of his career has some additional insights that he might not have had 29 years before. And I think like one of those is, the film centers around a guy named Toby, who is this director, artistic kind of genius who, again, as we said earlier, became famous off of a student project that he had made that was an adaptation of Don Quixote that he had filmed in Spain. And it catapulted him to stardom. And now he's back as this highly successful director and visionary doing like an advertisement based off of Don Quixote, and that's like where the film starts. And he's changed. If the film does this whole temporal thing where it like jumps back and forth between present and the past. So like when he was making the movie, what's going on now, and then like also to an even more fantastic level back to the 1600s with Don Quixote. But like,
yes.
we're putting the cart before the horse here.
No, it's okay. We can get into it. I think.
Let's talk about production real fast. Since we laid the groundwork, let's knock production out. Talk about the woes there, and then
why this took 29 years to make.
Yeah, let's get to it.
So originally, he read the book in, I believe, 1988, and
89.
Okay, and then from there, he was really thinking immediately he wanted to do an adaptation, and he got a studio to kind of sign on to it, and the studio was eyeing Sean Connery and Danny DeVito as Don Quixote and Sancho, I
Correct.
believe.
The studio being Phoenix Pictures.
And for whatever reason, that just fell through, basically, which often happens with movies. I don't think that one got very far in production. But all through the 90s, he was planning it and trying to do it again. But he kept making other movies in the meantime. And eventually, it was looking like Johnny Depp was signed on. They got all this money from investors and stuff. They started filming with Johnny Depp. And they basically made most of the movie, or like half of it, I would say, or a third. Have you seen those clips? They're all on YouTube.
No, I know that there's a documentary about the failed production of the first film.
Yes, it's called Lost in La Mancha.
Lost in La Mancha, and I know that it has some clips from it. I have not seen the documentary.
I mean, it's a whole different film, and I mean, even the script was different and everything. But
didn't like a flood destroy like a ton of equipment, and that was like a major reason the plug was pulled?
Yes, so they were trying to film it on location in Spain. And what they found out is, they're doing military F-16 fighter jet exercises right overhead of where we're trying to film this. And then a giant flood washed everything away, did all this damage to their equipment, and totally changed the landscape. So for continuity purposes, they basically were going to have to refilm everything they'd already done. And it was just a nightmare, and there were scheduling issues. And then I believe the guy who was supposed to be Don Quixote was having some health problems and thought it might be like cancer or something. But I think it ended up being 2 herniated discs. And it was just a nightmare, basically. And I mean, that was when Johnny Depp was like hot shit. That was the height of his fame, pretty much. And so it would have been a different movie. I've watched the scenes with him, and it just looks like everyone's miserable.
So, yeah, after the release of Lost in La Mancha in 2003, Terry Gilliam tried again 6 months afterwards, and it was immediately turned down.
He lost an absurd amount of money, and then like the insurance company ended up having to pay out $15 million, but they acquired like the rights to the script and all this stuff. And I mean, Terry Gilliam actually is kind of famous for that. A lot of his movies have been extremely messy productions and many of them have just totally fallen through. I mean, there's a whole list of his failed works that are pretty interesting, but
so yeah, it's just more and more BS through the 2000s up through 2015. Amazon Studios was on board at one point to release the film theatrically.
Then they finally got Adam Driver on board as the main character.
Which that would have been coming right off the cusp of the first Star Wars movie that he was in.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I mean, he would have been filming it at least. It
might have been after like most of the Star Wars movies, but that was a good choice. I mean, honestly, I think from what I saw, he did a better job than Johnny Depp.
Adam Driver is a fantastic actor. I've been very impressed with everything I've seen. I think he is the absolute best part of the new Star Wars trilogy. He's like the redeeming aspect of it. His performance is really good there.
I fell asleep. I mean, in the Star Wars, I don't think I've seen a single one of them without falling asleep.
they were like not that good, you know.
I mean, I kind of liked how they did the first one.
The first one was good.
It had a certain charm to it, but I still fell asleep.
But then, dude, then they like abruptly turned heel on like whatever they were doing with Finn, you know.
Oh, see, I missed all of that.
Yeah, man, like what's the actor's name? Fuck me. Finn, his character's like role in the series took like a dramatic nosedive after the first film, and like my thoughts are just like Disney did some like testing and found that wasn't testing well. I also believe that like the fucking Chinese posters for the film like didn't have Finn on,
Oh man,
like featured on them for like, racial purposes or fucking whatever.
Disney panders far too much to China to, I don't know, have any credibility in my book.
Either way, the actor was very vocally displeased about how things went, and it's like very fairly so.
Yes.
So I don't know. They're not great movies. They're not my faves. I don't know. Don't write us a fan email if you disagree. I feel like you probably won't, but like if you do and that upsets you, let us know. Let us know how upset it makes you that I don't like the new trilogy of Star Wars all that much.
Whatever. I don't think that's controversial.
I don't think it's controversial either. But, somebody out there might. Anyways.
Anyhow, what movie are we doing again today? Oh, yeah.
Lol. Laugh my ass off. So, yeah, Adam Driver was selected for the role. In 2016, Paulo Branco was brought in as a producer, which led to like a whole list of other problems. Ultimately, culminating in the film not being able to compete in the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Festival. It was able to be shown there after some like legal hang-ups, and then also subsequently was deemed allowed to be released in French theaters, but there was like a giant legal battle with the producer who just basically like tried to like fuck everything up.
Apparently at the Cannes Film Festival it received a 15-minute standing ovation,
which sounds about on par for me.
Pretty impressive.
I thought it was really good.
I loved it.
Its Rotten Tomatoes score, for anybody curious, is 64. So that's like pretty mixed.
I mean, hey, that's not a very good.
Yeah, critics are fucking critics.
I mean, some critics are writing for a mass audience or a totally different demographic. So, I mean, this film's not for everyone. It's a little bit heady and it's kind of long.
It is kind of long. Fucking always doing long movies, man.
But it's so good. If you can get to the end, the payoff is just so worth it that, I mean, it's basically, I just want to spoil the plot. Okay, is that okay? I mean, I already said it, but like the director eventually just descends into like fantasy and becomes his own version of Don Quixote. And like that idea is just so awesome,
It is.
And it just adds like another layer that it kind of needed to be a feature-length film, in my opinion.
And we're back just in time to talk about the plot.
Yes!
Now that we've talked about... And really, like, the production woes could have been dived into really, really deep.
They lasted 29 years. I mean, you could... Multiple movies have been made about it, basically. So go check those out. Lost in La Mancha. Pretty good.
Yep.
And also there's clips on YouTube.
There's clips on YouTube. There's always clips on YouTube. Like 99% of the time.
But basically, so they're filming this commercial on location in Spain. They've got a dude dressed like Don Quixote. And essentially the production in the film, the production on set of this commercial is a disaster. It's not going according to plan.
Not at all. And you can sense there's some frustration. You kind of see that our protagonist, Toby, is, he's very, again, charming and enchanting, but kind of a pompous prick a little bit. He's very dismissive of somebody bringing him water, as I suppose some of the Hollywood types can be. I don't know. It just kind of paints the picture of who this man is. He's highly successful, very intelligent, brilliant, sharp, good looking, but like maybe a little bit of a jerk.
And he's surrounded by all of these like really important people, like producers and investors on the commercial, and basically has all these demands on him. and getting frustrated as things aren't quite working out. I believe one of the producers suggests that, oh, maybe he should take the motorbike. Or
no. So first we see the commercial go to shit. They go. There's like back at the hotel they're staying at. I guess the producer kind of like loses his cool, and that's Q. Big investor dude shows up, played by oh my gosh, man, I'm doing so bad with names today. It's like drawing just the biggest blank.
It's okay, it happens.
Skarsgård.
Yes, Stellan Skarsgård,
Yeah.
and his character is called the Boss.
The Boss, and his
wife is Jackie,
who is like a very almost Marilyn Monroe type, very sultry blonde. But anyways, he shows up and tells Toby that he's gonna go out and meet with one of the other big investors, this vodka magnate from Russia, and he asks him to look after his wife while he's gone. Another character that will be present throughout the rest of the film that enters in this scene is the gypsy.
Right, that's right.
And the gypsy is an important character, but he like comes up to the table and is trying to pander bootleg DVDs, and he pulls one out and hands it to Toby, and
it's the copy of his art school film, his original film, The Man Who Killed Don Quixote.
And this is, as we touched on earlier, this is what catapulted him into stardom. So he's almost like, taken back that this is handed to him, because it's weird, right? And especially because it was probably not a current movie at that point. Like, why would it be in the bootleg bin? But as he kind of like chases after the gypsy guy, he slips away, kind of very whimsically, almost like a jester,
Yeah, he almost seems like a little magical. I mean, one thing that Terry Gilliam's known for is like a certain amount of magical realism. And that guy almost kind of like pops in and out of existence throughout the movie at opportune moments.
Yeah, and he's almost like, even if he gets caught up in some of the woes of the film, it's almost like he's just got this ability to just, fizzle out of it.
It's such a trope at this point for the boss to ask someone to take care of their wife.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
It's like in Pulp Fiction that happens.
Oh, yeah.
But in reality, like, I don't know if I'd ever ask another man to take care of my wife for the night or whatever.
Absolutely fucking not. That's weird. I mean, beyond it being, like, definitely misogynistic, like, yeah, you're just asking for your old lady to get piped down by some...
It never works out. And also in those movies, the boss's wife is always very flirtatious and just...
Yeah, man.
Sets the guy up, basically.
The bosses need to get better at picking their partners. Find yourself a nice lady who's not going to try and bang your underlings. Because they have to know that they're just, like, condemning that dude to, like... presumably certain death if it ever comes and it's not going to be a good death either. It's not like you're just going to get shot in the back of the head. They're going
to go medieval on that ass.
Yeah, exactly. A couple precisely get the gimp. Pulp Fiction, we should do Pulp Fiction.
Sure.
So of course Toby and the boss's wife Jackie become entangled.
They have a thing.
Yeah, they're shown making out. They go
in the hotel room, I guess. Yeah, and then the boss shows up.
Yeah, but Toby's more interested in putting the DVD on than like even sleeping with this woman. But yeah, the boss shows up. Toby says it's every man for himself, and he basically kicks open the door, knocks the boss down, and sprints out. So the boss doesn't get a perfect glance at who it was, but like can see that his wife was in a room with a man.
Yes. And then he later blames it on the gypsy guy.
He does. He does blame it on the well.
Because apparently the boss didn't get a good look at him, but the boss hints at it throughout the entire movie that he knows, you know?
Yeah, he does initially suggest that it's the gypsy to Toby, but it's like it's almost like Toby is just like so bad at playing it fucking cool too, for being, this extremely you know freaking clever guy. It's just like,
No, he seems like totally kind of overwhelmed and a little in over his head and just hanging on for the ride, basically. Which is interesting. I mean, it makes sense because that's actually how Terry Gilliam described the filmmaking process. He said even this final production, the one that finally actually was made, he said at a certain point, like, he basically lost control of the movie and was just kind of like letting it go where it went.
But anyways, production like resumes the next day, and it's not going well again. And the boss shows up and initiates a conversation with Toby. And he was like, "I thought I asked you to look after my wife," and he's like, "I did. It's not didn't do a very good job." We can see that Jackie looks like she has been beat. She's got big old sunglasses on, but there's like evidence of bruising on her face. And the boss is kind of somewhat insinuating, or as you said, kind of like nodding at the thought that he knows it was Toby. So Toby hops on a motorbike of some crew guy or whatever there, and
goes on a ride to essentially clear his head.
Gets the fuck out of Dodge. I mean, he's also like fleeing this this powerful man who has he's got a penchant for violence.
He's kind of running away from his own film shoot.
So he goes into the bar and he sees Raul, and they're talking in Spanish with subtitles. And there's this point where Toby's like, "We don't need these," and he brushes the subtitles away, and they just both start speaking in English, which is
that's some pretty interesting choice.
Yeah, some more of that like fantastical realism.
Kind of breaks the fourth wall a little bit.
Exactly. So he asks Raul how everybody's doing, and he finds out that the guy who played Pancho is now dead. He turned into an alcoholic and drank himself to death. He asks about the old man who played Don Quixote, and they say, "Oh, he's alive," but it's kind of this weird, tense, like you can tell there's something amiss. And then he asks about Raul's daughter, who was who was the Dulcinea, this like
in the original film.
Yeah, so this like ideal of beauty that Don Quixote is like, fighting for their honor. It's his lady.
And Raul's like, "Yeah, come on, I'll show you." And then basically Toby follows Raul to her bedroom, and it looks like no one's lived in there for a while. And he says, "Oh, she went to go be a whore and followed your dream to Paris."
Yeah, or Madrid. But
Madrid. Right.
Yeah, but she tried to be a movie star like Toby promised her she could be, and she ended up turning to sex work. And Raul crushes a glass in his hand. So that's like touching on the themes, like, the first kind of like nod where Toby's faced to look at like the wake of his creative genius. Like pretty much everybody he just asked about's not doing so great.
Interesting.
And then so he comes out, some kid was pissing on his motorcycle and had tied some cans or whatever to it, and he like came after the kid and ended up fleeing when the kid's dad came out. And he ends up at he finds like follows some signs that say Don Quixote this way.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then eventually he comes into a small village. He follows the signs to this little shack, and inside there's a woman who, when he asked her about Don Quixote, she takes him in this little room, and there's almost like an animatronic looking Don Quixote in there, and like kind of a voiceover. It sounds like a recording, so it's like a tourist trap almost, but Then this scene's really awesome because, like, as the animatronic Don Quixote's talking, it like actually becomes a real person, and it's the original Don Quixote from his film from 10 years earlier, portraying Don Quixote,
who recognizes him instantly as Pancho.
Yes, and basically they get to talking, and we very quickly find out that, okay, this man's totally lost touch with reality and does actually believe he's Don Quixote now.
Yes, he is fully convinced he's Don Quixote. So the little old lady comes in and freaking cattle prods him, which is, I mean, a cattle prod is always kind of funny. Unless it's being used on you currently. But she comes in, she prods him some, and a lantern falls over, and the whole thing catches on fire, and they flee. And this what looked like a pretty high production value scene, thinking about it. There's pyrotechnics, I feel like.
Oh, yeah, they burned some stuff for sure.
Like things got launched into a cart. Anyways, they like flee, and I guess basically Toby gets back to set, but gets like called up by the police for the damage done in the village because of his little incident or whatever.
Yep.
And he gets thrown in the back of a cop car along with the gypsy. The gypsy is back again.
Yep. And the gypsy has been arrested because it was earlier implied that he had broken into the boss's house or whatever.
Yeah, and was going to, be involved with his wife. Of which the gypsy is completely innocent. And, he tells Toby, like, I think you need to tell these people what really went on.
Yep. But before he can, or before anything happens, they're riding along in the cop car, and this scene's awesome. Out of nowhere, Don Quixote just rides up on a horse and just messes him up, man.
Yeah, he sees his beloved Pancho in the back, and he starts smacking him with his freaking lance, smacks the car. Dude, he straight jousts one dude. Like, I mean,
oh yeah,
it should have killed him, man. That should have been a death blow. And then another cop gets fucking shot.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm pretty sure he does kill them.
Yeah, I think those cops
it's
are
like
dead.
A violent change of tone all of a sudden.
Yeah, well, he hits one of the cops while he's about to shoot somebody, about to shoot Toby, and it like causes him to jerk, and he shoots the other cop in the stomach.
Pretty badass.
It was pretty,
Fun scene.
unexpected turn to the violent.
And then he frees Toby, and Toby's like, "What the hell, dude?"
Yep. So Toby flees. Freaking, they get like reunited, and they end up, we see the iconic scene of Don Quixote trying to fight the freaking windmill, and he does it perfect. He gets thrown off the horse and into a cart filled with hay, exactly like how it was supposed to happen in the freaking commercial, but they couldn't get it right. And he, just genuinely charging the windmill to save this lady, does it perfect. So afterwards, Toby finds a bag of Spanish gold at some point and tries to hide it, but he falls into a ravine, and he comes upon Angelica, Raul's daughter. Quixote shows up for a little bit, but she tells Toby that she does work as an escort, or at least has, and maybe she's like more involved with this other person. But either way, she kind of insinuates it's not that great of a relationship, but she's very well taken care of. And then we see like a guy in a suit taking pictures of him, from like afar, and she's like, I got to get out of here. And she gets on her horse and she dips out. And so Toby and Quixote at this point go like on a quest to try and find Angelica. So this is where like Toby is starting to kind of like fill into the role of Quixote in my mind. Like he's pursuing the damsel.
Oh yeah. And we do come to learn later. I'm not sure of like the timeline, but at one point we do learn that yes, Angelica is actually dating the Russian investor, the powerful Russian investor. And yes, the guy taking pictures of them was like a spy for that dude.
Yes. But that's revealed when they get to like the castle.
Right.
So they have the whole fight with the Knight of Mirrors, which is just Raul in disguise and a bunch of townspeople from Los Sueños trying to like get Quixote or Javier to come home.
So what's cool about this part and the rest of the film is, yes, Toby is traveling through the countryside with Don Quixote, but we're finding all these different characters that they run into are actually like different characters from the production of the commercial. So they're all people he knows in his regular life, but they're like dressed up in these Renaissance era like costumes, basically.
So after the whole Knight of Mirror things, Raul freaking decks Toby because he indirectly caused his daughter to turn into an escort. Toby wakes up and finds Quixote flagellating himself.
Good word, flagellating.
Yes, I didn't get that from Wikipedia either. Wikipedia.
I got it from last podcast.
Oh, I've known that since I read I think one of Dan Brown's books in like middle school or whatever.
It's got to be the first one with Tom Hanks.
No, the one with the albino freaking whipping himself all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Know what another good word is?
What?
Quixotic.
What does that mean?
That is basically a word that comes from Don Quixote. Quixotic.
Really? Okay.
And it means like having the properties of Don Quixote, essentially.
Excellent.
Like clumsy or whimsical or fantastical.
Okay, cool. A topical vocab word. Very good, Braden.
There you go. Quixotic.
Quixotic. Isn't that fun to say?
That's a good one.
So anyways, they end up running into Jackie, as you'd mentioned, dressed up in a costume party, being thrown at the castle by Miskins, who is the Russian vodka magnate who's, involved in this commercial as well.
And he's a creepy dude, basically.
He's a creepy dude.
Toby shows up with Don Quixote. That guy's kind of a creep, but he seems to take a liking to Don Quixote. But then in a one part, which is really weird, he's like being abusive towards his wife Angelica, and he like makes her lick up.
Well, he refers to her as his property, and yeah, he drops like a fucking cream pastry on his fucking shoe, and instead of letting literally anyone else clean it up, he makes her get down on her hands and knees and like lick it off her toes.
I don't know about you, but like after they accused Quentin Tarantino of like putting scenes like those in his movies to like satisfy his own foot fetish, I think about that every time I see a scene like that now. I'm just like, is Terry Gilliam like getting a boner when he like makes her do this?
I can say that at least for From Dusk Till Dawn, it wasn't Tarantino's idea. The whole Selma Hayek foot scene was Robert Rodriguez's plan, and Tarantino didn't know about it going into the scene. So his like face of, creepy awe and fucking satisfaction was very genuine. He had no idea that was coming, and he got to drink some tequila off of Salma Hayek's toes.
All I'm saying is he is pretty creepy, and I wouldn't put it past him.
I'm not trying to take a stance on this one way or another. I'm just saying factually, for From Dusk Till Dawn, that was Robert Rodriguez's doing.
I want it to be true. I think there was something also about Kill Bill. There was something going on there too.
With feet?
But anyway. Believe so, maybe. But anyway, we're getting way off now.
Yeah, it's been so long since I've seen Kill Bill. I couldn't even start to talk about it. But, so anyways, yeah, they see this weird foot licking thing. Toby, like, tries to chase after her, but Angelica, like, refuses, basically. Says, like, do you have the balls to come after, Miskin's property? He takes what he thinks is gold at her, the gold coins he found earlier, but now finds that all of them are just like, rusty washers or whatever.
Useless, that was interesting.
Useless junk steel.
Yep, so that's when you start realizing, this dude's slipping.
So they do this whole thing with, this kind of like reenactment bit. Angelica's captured by Miskin's men. Freaking Toby thinks he rescues her, but it's Angelica wearing a mask, who reveals that Angelica is going to be burned alive as part of his entertainment.
Yeah, this part's pretty awesome. This is like the big kind of climax of the film.
Yeah, she's strapped to like a freaking barbecue.
Yeah, dude. And there's all these like guys dressed like devils and stuff dancing around. Yeah, and it's real creepy.
Man, this scene felt like extremely reminiscent of kind of this like disorienting kind of effect that Gilliam does for like a lot of his more fantastical scenes. Like I think about like certain scenes from 12 Monkeys and like absolutely the Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, where, you know, it's just like the motion mixed with like the perspective. It's usually like lower. It adds like a kind of like fantastical, almost like lightly trippy effect to it, you know?
Right. Another good example is when they go into the circus-themed casino in Fear and Loathing.
Exactly. So like all of those, you know, I mean, Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, it's literally half the movie, you know, is this like weird fantasy land stuff.
I haven't gotten to that one. I need to check that out.
We should do it. It's really good. And for those of you that haven't seen it, you know, I don't want to give Amazon any more money, but if you're going to rent a movie on Amazon, you know, maybe give this one a try. I believe that the way that the proceeds were set up is that the money, at least from the box office initially, and I hope, you know, in some sense, royalties go to Heath Ledger's daughter. Very, very famously, like a big.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So yeah, Heath Ledger was, you know, cast as the kind of like lead role for it, and he died prior to production filming. So they had to drastically change the storyline where other actors played his role, but in like the imagination land. So it's like something would happen to cause their faces to change, which was like something that they worked into the plot. But it makes sense and it works pretty well. But
that's pretty cool.
Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, and Jude Law filled out the remainder of the roles, and all three of them forfeited their proceeds from the movies to go to Heath Ledger's daughter.
Wow, nice.
So, all right.
So, yep, rent that on Amazon. Some part of it might go to his daughter, and the rest of it will buy one molecule of air for when Jeff Bezos goes to Mars.
You're right. It'll help him on his way. Help pay for his oxygen, or the fuel. I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
Lump it all together. So he like wrestles with Jackie, and they're like hanging out this balcony. It's very like Shakespearean looking. And the boss, you know, you see him get up, and it looks like he's gonna run up the stairs. So Toby sees this. He like grabs this big stone frickin' phallus, basically, for lack of a better word. I mean, it's not overtly a dick, but it could be a dick.
Not like in what's the movie we did, A Clockwork Orange?
Not like A Clockwork Orange. Man, this girl I noticed watched that recently, and she, you know, because I think it'd come up in conversation. And I think I'd said that it was on my podcast. As soon as it was done, she texted me. She was like, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And it's like, that's a very, very fair response to that film.
It's not one I'd recommend to just anyone.
No, I even thought afterwards, I was like, that was probably like not the best episode to pick. But it was available.
Shows how well you understand women.
Yeah, I'm clueless.
Good job, Andrew.
Yeah, freaking clueless. No, I don't think I'm totally clueless. I hope not. Anyways, it was on Netflix. It's not on Netflix anymore. So, but yeah, it wasn't a giant freaking like ceramic dick, but it was a big stone oblong thing. So he like he preps up, starts to wind up, and swings it, and instead of the boss coming through the door,
it's Don Quixote.
It is, which topples him over the railing adjacent, and he falls a floor down to the ground.
Yep. So Toby runs down, check on him, and with his dying breath, he basically says, "I never thought of you as a lowly servant. I always knew you were more than just Pancho."
Yeah, and he gives him his sword.
Or is it Pancho or Sancho? Sancho.
I've been saying Pancho. Fuck. Well, whatever. It's Sancho Panza. God damn it. Anyways,
whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever. Deal with it. So Angelica's burning is revealed to not actually be real. It was a special effect. And you know, as Quixote dies, you kind of see like Toby thinking more and more about the claims of immortality. And basically, you know, Miskin is just like, whatever, I'll find another girl. It's also worth, we didn't go over it much, but Angelica's body was shown to be like covered in bruises at one point, implying she was, you know, beyond the degrading foot licking, she was also subject to violence as well. But he parts ways with her, and, you know, like the next day, Toby and Angelica are riding off.
Riding into the sunset.
And Toby all of a sudden sees three giants.
Oh, this part's awesome.
Yeah, he fights the giants. He's about to be, you know, like freaking eaten or whatever. And then
he starts fighting back. He cuts off one of their fingers.
Yep.
Stabs another one. And then they turn into windmills. He's completed.
Yeah, he's hanging on the windmill.
He's come full circle. Now he is Don Quixote. Basically, he gets down, Angelica comes to him. He starts talking to her like he's Don Quixote, using the Don Quixote voice.
Yeah, he refuses to respond to Toby. And he also, like, is, like, fading out to death until she, like, agrees to be called Sancho. But it's also, like, implied there's, like, still, you know, like, sexual attraction there or whatever.
The end is so good.
So, yeah, they ride off into the sunset, and that's it. That's it. We got through it.
That's a great movie.
It's a great.
Know what it reminds me of? Kind of unrelated, but have you ever seen a rarely seen film called Don Juan DeMarco?
I have not.
It is Marlon Brando as a therapist, and he's treating Johnny Depp, who believes he is Don Juan. And throughout the course of the movie, basically, this dude's delusional. He's living in this fantasy world where he thinks he's Don Juan. At the end of the movie, Marlon Brando like becomes Don Juan. It's almost the same, honestly.
That's pretty cool. I'm
good film. Check it out.
I will.
Check that one out. I mean, anything with Marlon Brando's good.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, Don Quixote, the man who killed Don Quixote. I loved it. I thought it was a little bit long for my taste. Some of the scenes were extra. You know, that could have been in the DVD special features or whatever, and that would have been fine.
Are you talking about the man who killed Don Quixote, or are you talking about...
Yes,
okay,
the man who killed Don
Quixote. Just making sure we were back on that now.
Yeah, we're back on that.
It was really long. I feel like a lot...
But it's good.
A lot of Gilliam's works are pretty long. A lot of good films are pretty long. It's just like, it's a big time commitment.
I mean, it's not that long. It's like just over 2 hours, but it's epic. I mean, his entire 29 years, you know? I get why it's so long.
Yeah.
Because this is like his life's work almost.
I also think that, like, you know, touching back on like the kind of like, you know, destructive possible wake that follows artistic genius, I think that like the end also shows that, like, you know, while maybe at a glance, you know, Quixote looks like a madman, like he really, really lived and had a wonderful, you know, albeit kooky life. And you know, even though he died, he was an old man. And, you know, like, I think seeing Toby, you know, adopt the Quixote thing, it also is just kind of like, it's reconciling, you know, that sure, some stuff like might get tied up in it, but like, you know, everything happens for a reason, maybe.
Exactly. And Toby also had a character arc where he started off as a pompous asshole who was pretty cynical and whatever, and by the end, you know, he's totally open-minded. All things are possible.
Yeah, he's...
with a more romantic, fantastical view of the world.
Exactly. Beautifully put, Braden. Beautifully put.
We could all use that.
We could.
Whew, to a certain degree. Whew, that was a good one. That was a long one.
It was good. All right.
Thanks for sticking with us, Flickers.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
And we will catch you next time.